There's some fantastic news out of Detroit, you guys. I don't know if you heard. Plug-in hybrids are back, baby. Yeah, we've got some terrible news on that front, but let's have a quick chat about it and what it actually means. I'm Brian. Welcome to My Tesla Weekend. Joining me all the way from sunny Canada is Mark from the Tesla Life. He's a two-time GM hybrid owner. He's got some insights and some perspectives. Mark, how are you, my friend?
Doing very well, Brian. Thanks for having me on today.
Yeah, it's exciting. I've been on your show a couple times now, once or
Yep.
twice. And if you guys haven't checked out the Tesla Life, it is the biggest little channel on the internet. They do amazing work and could use some love. Mark, tell me real quick, the Volt versus the Bolt. Clear it up.
A V versus a B. Difference basically is the amount of battery. The Volt has a small battery, about 18 and a half, 19 kilowatt hours. The Bolt with a B, certainly a much larger battery. And of course, the Volt with a V, V is in Victor, it had a gasoline backup generator. So that would allow the vehicle, if you ran out of battery juice, to seamlessly switch over to the generator. It would fire up and start sending electricity to the motor itself. So it allowed the car to continue driving at whatever speed you were driving, and the RPM would kick up and down depending on how much of a push you were putting on the car. But it would be able to switch seamlessly.
Now, does that make it a hybrid or a range extender, or does it matter? Is there a difference?
I guess the difference would be that I would say that this was more of a range extender in the fact that, unlike a hybrid, where a system like, say, a Toyota Prius is a classic hybrid, the gasoline motor was always there for assist. It would help you if you pressed hard into the accelerator. It would kick on and produce a little more energy than just the battery. And with the Volt, if you had juice in the battery, it didn't matter how hard you pressed on the car, it would just use the juice in the battery. So that gasoline motor could sit unused, and it commonly did for me for 42 days before it had to do an engine maintenance mode. So I was burning like zero gas with this car. I thought it was the best trick that GM had ever done because it didn't have to access the motor until you actually were out of battery juice. And if you could do your normal route within, let's say, 60 some miles around town, you would never burn gas. So it seemed to be a great invention when it came out.
And at the time, the charging infrastructure was very poor,
Yes.
so it was not necessarily a bad idea at the time. And if the mineral sourcing requirement says we have got to get the batteries made domestically, I guess it's better to have 3 to 5, maybe 10 cars with a small battery domestically sourced rather than 1 or 2 sourced as pure electric. Now, I'm obviously on the all-electric train, as it were, but what is this new announcement from GM? Tell us about that.
Yeah, GM has indicated that hybrids are back on the table for them because it seems that there's a bit of a supply problem when it comes to them receiving batteries to make BEVs. It's, again, speculation on my part. I'm not a GM insider or anything, but it looks like they're trying to bring some hybrids back into the mix because they're not going to be able to produce a lot of BEVs. And of course, we've seen that lately with their amount of pure electric vehicles that they've been exporting from factories. It's been fairly low.
It's been shockingly low. If you look, the Bolt in 2023 was the third best-selling EV model in the US, but it came in at something like 1/5 of the Model 3, 1/7, something abysmal like that, and closer to 1/10 of the Model Y. So the spread between Tesla and everybody else is so far quite ridiculous. Um, what is your thought on hybrids in today's tech, environment? Is this a good thing, a bad thing? No news at all?
Well, it's kind of a mixed bag. I think that hybrids, the time for hybrids has already left us. I think we've gone by that. But I do look at the fact that GM is having issues getting materials to make BEVs. And I would suggest that making a hybrid over making strictly gasoline vehicles would be a plus over that. But as honestly, the whole industry's moved on to completely battery vehicles. But if GM can't get batteries, this is maybe a half measure that could help them a bit. And this seems to be all they can do.
And I would agree. I am not a fan of hybrids. Having twice the drivetrain for the same amount of go-go power is not ideal. But if the choice is pure gas or no BEVs, which I mean that's what we're facing. This is better than nothing. And there are people who are brand loyal, who will only buy a GM or a Ford or what have you. And for them, I guess this is something. And there are still people who have an irrational bit of range anxiety. And it would be great for people like that. Like you were saying, you had times, if you had range anxiety at the time, you could have looked at those 42 days and said, I've never needed more than, what did you have? 50 miles, 100 miles of range?
Yeah, about 100. I'm sorry, about 60 miles of range.
And I'll tell you, I live an hour from the nearest city. It is less than once a week that I need to go more than 50 miles in a day. A normal around town trip for me is 3-4% of my battery at most. So for me, that would remain a battery vehicle. There are concerns that people have where I know Bear's Workshop in Arizona has a number of plug-in hybrid Chrysler Pacificas. They are never plugged in. He doesn't have the space to do it. They are managed at a parking lot at the airport. The airport does not have, that facility does not have the capacity to deal with. They barely can handle the Turo owners as it is. They certainly are not going to be shuffling cars around to put in 40 cents of juice per vehicle. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you do have vastly better gas mileage than on a strictly strictly gas vehicle. And you're not burning gas at idle at stoplights the way you would in a lot of gas cars. Some of them have the interrupt now where they stall out when you come to the light. Drivers find that very unsettling, and well, they should. For those of us who have driven more than a few years, your car sputtering out at a stoplight really increases.
And you're wondering, what's going on?
What have I done? This is a problem. Oh, no, it's fine. It's fine.
One other thing I should mention is that back in the hybrid days, when I had the Chevy Volt, I would say that it allowed people to drive electric the vast majority of time. And it also was a bit of a gateway drug. It almost became a game in the Chevy Volt as to how many kilometers or miles I could put on the vehicle without it kicking on the gas engine. And it always strived me to get more and more EV range, more and more. So you know what? The next car I bought, it was a Tesla, complete battery car, and I left the hybrid behind.
And I'll tell you, if you're going to gamify it like that, it's good that you moved to Canada because you're always going to get more kilometers than miles.
Yeah, I just drive to Buffalo, right? And I can just see the range just drop right off.
That's how that works, I am told. Now, what are your power rates like where you live and your gas prices?
The power rates here in Southern Ontario are sitting at about 12 cents kilowatt hour. Okay, somewhere in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And the gasoline prices, we're talking about at this point about $1.50 per liter. So that would be 3.8 times $1.50, and you get a gallon equivalent.
Yeah, so about 5.50-ish. I'm thinking.
Yeah, and I was told there'd be no math on this show, so I'm sorry.
I don't know who told you that. I don't have a booker, and I know very well I said it was going to be all math, and that there would be a quiz at the end, and it would be comprehensive. Yeah, the cumulative tests are the one that get you. And what I tried to explain to my kids when they were in school was life is cumulative.
It
So
is.
pay attention. You never know which parts of school. My son even said, high school algebra. When am I going to use this in my, like, how often do you use it? And I said, every day. My spreadsheets, that is all high school algebra. So I use it. I use it. Those are among the few teachers that I remember well because they are seared into my brain.
It was a
So,
traumatic experience.
so we've seen some delays getting domestic battery production up and running. I've seen people who've said Tesla should have focused on the compact before the Cybertruck. And my response to that is there aren't enough batteries for the compact. The compact is expected to be a very high production, very high volume vehicle. And even the Cybertruck, even at very low numbers, they've only got a couple weeks of spare batteries pre-built. So it's not like we could just do that. Do you see a big advantage to spreading those batteries out among hybrids? Obviously, in a perfect world, we'd like all cars to be electric tomorrow. There ain't enough batteries to do that. There are enough batteries to cover what we're already doing, and there are enough batteries to expand it a bit, but we couldn't go 100% electric today. Is that a good thing? I mean, the
Again,
hybrid part.
it's better than nothing. As mentioned, GM does not have enough batteries to make everything electric. If they're going to have anything apply for some of the credit from the IRA, they're going to require the ability to have some hybrids on the road. And apparently that's what they've decided that they're going to do, as they say, hybrids are back on the table. It's kind of unfortunate, but like we've said, it's better than nothing.
It is. I agree. I am not a fan of half measures, but if it is, I will take pretty good over terrible any day.
Yeah.
And I guess that means that you and I are now shills for big oil. How's it feel, Mark? Are you proud of yourself? Look at what you've dragged me into.
Yes, I'm proud of myself. It's a wonderful feeling, Brian. Absolutely.
I had a video the other day where I said version 12 of autopilot of FSD beta version 12 may be the solution. It may be it. The videos we've seen, inconclusive so far, but promising. And people said, I thought you liked Tesla. Well, what? What are you talking about? So negative. I don't know why you're having this discussion. Okay.
You've got to look at the reality of things. Like the world is not perfect. It will never be perfect, and we are always riding between good and bad. And the world's gray. It's not black. It's not white. It's gray. And there are different shades of gray, and that holds true in all these conversations. You have to tell the truth. You're telling it what you believe is happening, what you see from your own eyes.
Right.
And I would much rather hear an honest review as opposed to someone that's being fanboyish and just spouting the company line, and that's it. I want to know what the real thing is.
I am cautiously optimistic on a lot of fronts where caution is warranted, but optimism is also warranted. And if anybody wants just now on your show, so for those who haven't seen the Tesla Life, and I'm sure you all have, every week they do an hour of all the news, and they will cover the good and the bad. They will dig into it and actually get. You've said things that are that I'm sure the ultra fans would find much too bearish, and of course the haters would find much too bullish. And that's what's important. If you just want a cheerleader, let's just start. I don't know, making music videos about how awesome everything. I mean, that's just ridiculous. What are we doing at that point?
Exactly. You got to be able, like, if there's no constructive criticism of what's going on, how are we expected to get anything better? Like you just ride the company line. The mistakes have been made. Mistakes are being made. It's much better to point them out and be realistic as to what the consumer can actually find out they're going to be facing.
Sure. And Elon has said if we don't have to start adding parts back in, we didn't cut enough. And we've seen that, for example, the yoke on the S and X, those are now optional and they're more expensive than just the wheel. The yoke is, for now at least, gone. I suspect that the yoke was going to be part of a steer-by-wire system because if you don't have to take your hands off the wheel, a yoke is fine. It's great. But for a number of people, they found it to be unacceptable. And
Or how about moving the horn away from the center of the wheel?
Yeah, put it
That
back.
that was a solution that's still looking for a problem.
Right. By the way, on the Highland, the blinker is still on your thumb, but it is now tactile, so it will click when you touch it, when you activate it. That's a step back in the right direction, I would say. Without pushback, we don't get these things back. They don't know what's going right and what's going wrong. And that's the feedback is important. It's important. And I would say a couple of years ago, the sales and service side was pretty abysmal and it's gotten a lot better. At one point, I needed to see a 7-seat Model Y to see if it would even fit because they were sufficiently rare that I couldn't just find someone who had one. And I contacted a sales center, and they said, "We don't have one, but you can call around." I said, "Can you call around?" And they said, "No." And I said, "That's not good service. Those days have passed. Those are behind us. Can I call?"
Here's a list of some past customers. Call them between 5 and 9. They're
Well,
usually home.
No, they meant call other sales locations.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's like, I'm pretty sure this is your job and you have a screen that would have the answer, but okay. Okay. That is not a worse experience than I've had at traditional car dealerships. And it is not an experience that you could expect to have today. They would find you the vehicle that you need to see. If you get a chance to check out the Highland, I checked it out last week. It is fantastic. It is quieter. It is the going over speed bumps in the 3 felt softer than the Y, which was very impressive to me. And it's not more expensive, which is crazy. And I don't know if you saw, but there was a 70-mile-an-hour range test in it.
Yes.
And it performed. It did very well. So,
yeah, I can't wait to get my hands on a Highland 3 and compare it to my current 3. It'll be fun.
Yeah. That's the most valuable comparison because you will be able to tell road noise instinctively from having had so much experience with it. So guys, what do you think? Hybrids, are we crazy? Are they crazy? Would you rather have hybrids or no electric vehicles at all? GM has struggled getting their batteries, getting it all sorted out, getting ones that don't go all flamey on them. But they're hopefully getting there. At least we shall see, and you can tell us in the comments below. Everybody else, like, subscribe, do the usual thing. Head on over to see what Mark and his guys are up to over there at the Tesla Life. And stay tuned, stay juicy, and I cannot wait to hear it from you clever robots in a hybrid that doesn't kick in ever.